This month on Bay Area Bountiful, we air the first episode of a 3-part series where we celebrate and learn from farm to community leaders.
When a child comes here, they're assured that it's going to be a safe place.
Champions of agricultural biodiversity and regenerative food production.
We rescue food on backyards and farms, and we share it with marginalized families.
And game changers in viticulture and wine sciences.
I made it my personal goal to help grape growers and winemakers make more informed decisions.
Bay Area Bountiful is about agriculture. It's about feeding us. It's about land and water. It's about the health of our planet. It's about stories that matter. Bay Area Bountiful. Cultivate, celebrate, connect.
Bay Area Bountiful is made possible in part by Rocky the free-range chicken and Rosie the original organic chicken. The Sonoma County Agricultural Preservation and Open Space District, Made Local Magazine and Sonoma County Go Local, and through the generous support of Sonoma Water.
The first community leader we'll meet is Carol Rathman, who founded an animal rescue and therapeutic farm 31 years ago in Santa Rosa.
I'm Carol Rathman, the director and founder of Forget Me Not Farm. And Forget Me Not Farm was started to teach children that were raised in maybe abusive situations about kindness and empathy. I've always had a strong love for farm animals, and so for my career I started out working in large animal medicine where I could work with horses and cows, and then made kind of a midlife career change coming to the Humane Society. I kept seeing a lot of the same people over and over again, which were people that weren't taking care of their animals. In the early 90s, researchers were starting to understand the connection between human violence and abuse against animals. So I attended like a 3-day seminar and learned about that connection and how it was all tied together. And there was a psychiatrist at the training, and I asked him, I said, what would you think about using farm animals with kids? And he thought it was a splendid idea because children raised in abusive households don't necessarily have gentle touch. And one of the things we want to do in any kind of therapy program is to not harm anyone, whether it's the animals or the children. The first animal that we brought actually into the program was a goat. He'd been abandoned because he was badly deformed and had kind of a wobbly hip, so we called him Elvis.
Carol went back to school, got a master's in psychology, emphasizing animal-assisted therapy, and pitched her idea of a therapeutic rescue farm to the YWCA, which operated a domestic violence women's shelter and 2 therapeutic preschools.
The director said, okay, let's do it. So she put 4 kids in her car once a week, brought them out to the farm. We spent an hour with the kids each week. And then it just it went from 4 kids a week to 100 kids a week.
The farm offers a sanctuary for both the rescued animals and the youth that visit.
My mother was a foster child, and at that time they didn't want you to get too attached to your family. So she was moved around if it looked like she was beginning a good relationship with someone. After hearing all of her stories, it became really important to me to look at those kids and see how we could be that sort of stable person in their life.
Bringing students to the farm from a foster background, homelessness, trauma, loss, just different challenging situations, allows them to kind of escape their own reality and connect with animals that have also faced traumatic situations in their own lives.
When a child comes here, there's this sense of of normalcy, of being able to act like a child without any fear. And you can see transformation in like 1 or 2 visits.
I've been coming to Forget-Me-Not Farm since I was 8 years old. So I started coming in 1996. I actually came the day after I was taken from my mother. You know, in that time, things are confusing and, you know, hard to, wrap your mind around your new situation. And just fun to come see the animals and pet them, and you just forget things just go away as you're petting them, and yeah, it's just awesome.
When kids come out to the farm, they interact with the animals. Sometimes the animals solicit pets, sometimes they just stand next to them and they share space. And the animals are kind of always interested in the youth that come out. They have very good reactions with the kids, and I think they're always teaching them lots of little lessons.
The goats, for instance, they'll come up to all the kids, they might jump on you, they're friendly, they'll try and see if you have any treats in your pocket. And so their lesson for children might be, it's okay to push them away and say, no, it's okay to do that. And then we have a llama who's very aloof, and it's taken years for some of the children to be able to get near her. And that lesson for the children is just about relationship building. It doesn't happen overnight.
One of the things we're trying to repair is healthy attachment, and that takes time.
They're learning to be caregivers. So they're learning to take care of an animal. And so I think a lot of these children feel like they have some value. They feel loved.
We get to be like the aunts and the uncles that they don't have or have never had. Just adults who want to listen to them and be around them.
We're trying to bring the youth in this program into the present. What we're trying to teach them in the now is, how do I sit with my feelings? How do I self-regulate? How does working with this animal help me to have good boundaries, to have self-worth?
We are not clinicians ourselves, and actually don't know the histories of these kids. So when they come here, we just meet them where they're at, right? We treat them just like any other kid. We don't try to dive into their history or sit down and do talk therapy. And so it's just through the activities that we do with our animals and out in our gardens growing produce, it's intrinsically therapeutic.
Since opening, Forget-Me-Not Farm has hosted over 10,000 youth and rescued thousands of animals.
But we also have a mentoring program where we have one-on-one relationships between youth that are like 14 to 18. It's a work readiness program. We started the mentoring program when we realized that the children, as they aged out of the system at 18, so many of them had no resources.
I was able to be one of the first mentors, or actually the mentee, to come to the farm, and that was a really fun experience. Once or twice a week, we came and just helped out in the hospital and here and get some work experience. And I wrote a grant, and I was able to buy some like scrubs and stuff for coming here. And I bought some stuff for the the puppies and the foster kittens. So it was like one of the best experiences that always kind of remained with me. The farm, really, kind of made me who I am.
When I hear from our kids, and I realize the impact that it's had on them, I'm incredibly proud of that.
I would like to just say how unbelievably proud I am of the work that my mother has done, and what an honor it is to work with her every day.
She's touched so many lives with this program. She's just one of those fearless women. I asked her, what made you start this program? What was the impetus, And she just said, well, it's needed, I'm gonna do it, and she did it.
I think Carol is an amazing person. She's got an amazing vision, has carried it out in such a way that it's like a ripple effect in this community.
Carol's been such a great, mentor and person in my life. Even now, if I have any questions or about animals or anything, I always call her.
And 30-some years, we've grown from one little raised bed and this really funky kind of shed into this 3-acre expanse. And I keep thinking that might be time for me to retire, but I still have a lot to do. We're still growing and expanding who we see. It's really all about not forgetting. The animals are not forgotten, the children are not forgotten. So it's really any of those living things.
Not too far away, in Healdsburg, Dusky Estes directs Farm to Pantry, an organization that gleans excess produce from local orchards and fields. A group of mostly volunteers, Farm to Pantry rescues and distributes food that would otherwise go to waste. And over the life of the organization, has collected nearly 6 million servings of healthy produce.
I came to be involved with Farm to Pantry kind of by accident and because of the pandemic. We had a restaurant for 19 years. We lost it in a flood in the Barlow in 2019, and I hit the pavement looking for all kinds of crazy jobs. And someone suggested that I go out on a glean, and I didn't know what that word meant, which means to gather bit by bit. And I went to Front Porch, which is a farm that I knew of, and I knew that they grew amazing produce and beautiful flowers. And so we got to glean there. And it was during the pandemic when everyone wanted to give back and wanted to help our community and was also afraid. And I was afraid. How I normally give back to our community is to go into a kitchen and start cooking. And I was afraid to go into a kitchen. So I went out on a glean, fell in love at Front Porch because it's one of the most beautiful places in Sonoma County. And I was standing in a field of flowers, harvesting broccoli, cauliflower, kale, chard, the most gorgeous food to feed our community. And I applied for the job and they hired me. It's a pretty amazing idea because it's a win-win-win-win-win. It's a win for the property owner who doesn't see their food go to waste. It's a win for Mother Earth because we're combating climate change. It's a win for the person like me working. I love giving of my labor, and I get to see immediate gratification of a face and a life changed in one single day. 3 hours of work in the morning, delivery for 2 hours in the afternoon, and you see where it goes and it makes a huge difference. People feel much lighter when they see a beautiful head of lettuce that they can put on their table and eat, that they didn't have access to before.
We met Dusky and John when we moved to Sonoma County many moons ago.
Yeah, they really welcomed us with open arms.
They welcomed us.
She's inspiring as a chef and everything that she does and what she's done and continues to do.
She is blazing trails and setting the precedent in all the right ways, and we are so proud to say that we are friends of hers.
Yeah.
What is crazy about this is that Sonoma County is Mecca. Like, we are the bounty. We grow all the food for the closely knit farm-to-table restaurant scene in the Bay Area. We are where everything grows. And at the same time, there is so much hunger that people don't even see or know. 1 in 3 people in Sonoma County is facing food insecurity. The #1 material in our landfill is food waste. And if you can believe it, 40% of the food that is produced in our country goes to waste. And that means there's even more waste because the transportation, the packaging, the labor, the water. And climate change is real. We know it in Sonoma County. And I'm pretty terrified by it. And there's something we can do. Because when people talk about fighting climate change, it seems like a big, impossible task. I can't do anything, that's bigger than me. But we all touch food 3 times a day. We can do something. And what we can do is to make sure that we don't put food in the landfill. And so that means not overfilling your plate, like putting on your plate what you would actually use. It means maybe getting a chicken, which is pretty easy in Sonoma County, because they eat all your scraps. I mean, I have pigs, goats, sheep, ducks, and chickens. But if you just put whatever farm animal fits your home out there, they'll eat your food waste. Composting. Composting is crazy important. And it refeeds the soil to give you more food. Or making sure when you approach what you're gonna cook for dinner, go into your fridge and look at what is about to not survive and figure out how to save it. And I would tell you pestos are an amazing thing. Soups are an amazing thing. And pestos you can make out of almost anything. You can make it out of broccoli, you can make it out of arugula, and then you can freeze it and then it can become a pasta sauce, or you can make pestos into salad dressings to add amazing flavor. You can add them to risotto to add a bump of flavor. But so basically it's limitless on the ways in which you can save our planet, and you are powerful. 8% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from food waste. So we can do something. That's a big chunk. I feel lucky that I get paid to be a good person, and I get paid to make a difference in people's lives. And it's pretty easy to do. And my job is to be a connector or a bridge builder. And I know lots of amazing people to connect. So I get to connect farmers, and I know a lot of amazing farmers, with families in need. And I know a lot of organizations that help families in need in Sonoma County. And I get to work with giving volunteers every single day, people that are willing to give of their time. I get to every day work with people that are doing random acts of kindness, that are going out and spending their time with their physical labor to help somebody they don't even know.
Visitors approaching UC Davis's main campus from the south pass a sprawling vineyard and research complex as they enter the university, the Robert Mondavi Institute. This is where scientists like Dr. Anita Oberholster conduct cutting-edge investigation into pressing agricultural issues of global importance. And through the cooperative extension here, share findings with the public.
There is so many things we can study in wine. You know, wine is full of chemistry. Winemaking entails many chemical processes. Enology is actually the science of wine. Wine is complex. Hundreds, if not thousands, of aroma compounds, and then many non-volatile compounds as well. I do continued education for the grape and wine industry, as well as problem solving. I also have a lab where I do a lot of applied research, and my research specifically focuses on new and current issues in the grape and wine industries. A major concern at the moment is climate change. We're looking at the impact of a warming climate on specifically harvest decisions, as well as the resulting wine quality. When a vine is experiencing a heat wave and more drought conditions, it will be more sensitive to a disease. Red blotch disease decreases the ripening of grapes, meaning that they need to hang longer before we can harvest them. Longer hang times have a higher risk because we can have a heat wave that can impact the quality of the grapes, and the longer they hang on the vine, the higher the risk for wildfires. The biggest research project I currently have in my laboratory is looking at the impact of wildfire smoke. And when I started looking at all the research and what we know, I realized there's so many gaps in the research and that we basically do not have any solutions.
Wine made from grapes damaged by smoke has a particular taste.
On the palate, you get this ashtray-like character. It's really like, if you can imagine it, licking an ashtray. And that's really what I see typical of smoke taint. We are working on understanding what really happens during grape smoke exposure. Now, how do these smoke molecules go into the grape? And how do these compounds result in what we call smoke taint in a wine if they're present at high enough concentrations? I use some of the varieties planted here, and then we intentionally expose them to smoke, and we're pretty good at it. We're pretty good at sealing that tent and making sure only the vines that's supposed to receive smoke. I think sometimes when people drive on the highway, they must think, what the heck are we doing? At this stage, we need to tell a grape grower that if there's smoke in a vineyard, you have a potential risk. But it really is not that simple. Just because you see smoke in a vineyard does not mean that those grapes will be impacted. Is there something we can spray on the grape that can absorb the smoke molecules so that it doesn't actually go into the grape itself? We're looking at things that's already around and approved by the FDA, and we're looking at new things, novel things that we can develop. This sample, you can inject it on a column, separate the compounds of interest, and then you can quantify it. If you harvested grapes, you thought they're going to be okay, and then they turn out not to be okay, and your wine isn't the quality that you would like, is there anything we can do after the fact to improve the wine? Novel ideas of how to treat wines in a way that they will target only the molecules that's problematic and leave everything else alone. And we're making good progress. My research is quite broad and very interesting. I never have a problem finding graduate students to work in my lab. It has some roasted ash sheet elements, but
I'm extracting in
the Northern California grape and wine industry have a very good reputation in the rest of the world. It's known for making very good quality wines, and it's known for its excellent research. Instead of teaching, I spent that time doing continued education for the grape growers and winemakers, meaning workshops, seminars, as well as doing more in-person visits and problem solving. So part of my job is also to take complex research that may have a lot of research jargon and just make it easier, more for the layperson. Do small lot fermentations from your grapes. I find there's a lot of people that's really interested in research, wants to collaborate on research. That is very gratifying to a researcher and an educator like myself. I come from a farm background. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the people. So I enjoy interacting. Anybody and everybody, a lot of grape growers, a lot of winemakers, winery owners, sometimes people working for suppliers, people with many different interesting backgrounds and perspectives. They want to be good stewards of this earth and of their land and They're waiting for the research to help them do that in an economical, viable way. So you can see here some of our wines. We do have really good quality grapes at the Oakville Experimental Station. Sometimes one of the wineries will make wine for us and we can buy it back and we put it in a bottle and we put our own label on it. You will see it's not supposed to look commercial. I think the work will change the way the grape and wine industry make decisions and will help them be more sustainable in this era of obstacles, many obstacles, one of which is climate change. It's all about information, sharing the knowledge. Knowledge is power.
These unique individuals are doing remarkable work with the goals of connecting community, distributing resources, and sharing knowledge. We'll learn about more leaders who give back on the next episode of Bay Area Bountiful.
There's something very magical about just being out here and being with the animals. We had a little girl that was here she was about 4 years old, never spoke. Came in, kept her little hood on, her jacket the whole time, face covered, and then spoke when she was here for the first time. Who knew that when I started this program? I had no idea that it was going to be so impactful on the children.